What is up, fantasy junkies, my fellow fantasy sweaters? It is Tuesday. No, it's not Tuesday. It's Wednesday. I'm thinking it's Tuesday because we had a football game. We had a showdown slate last night. How'd you do? Hope we didn't have Josh Allen in the captain spot, or really at all. Welcome in, everybody, to the Wednesday show. This is a first look. We're on YouTube today. We are doing video for the first time today. So if you are listening, please jump over on YouTube and search the Daily Fantasy Sweat. Give us a subscribe, follow, like the video, as we are going to be putting more and more up there in the coming days, weeks, and months. Get in early. Get in at the ground floor over at the YouTube. It'll be fun. All right, so we're going to take a look at as week 6 is approaching, we are going to take a look at these salaries that just came out midday yesterday. It was kind of weird not having them posted until Tuesday afternoon, late Tuesday. I'm forgetting what time they came out, but definitely was not before the afternoon. So we're getting a little late start at looking at salaries. But let's go ahead and jump in. We have DraftKings pulled up here. As you can see here, move that over more to the middle of the screen. And we start with quarterback, and up top is obviously Lamar Jackson. I say obviously, and that's, I don't know how obvious it is with the way he played last week against Cincinnati. I played him in cash, pivoted onto him last minute from Deshaun Jackson. That was not a great decision. And we're going to talk about cash a little more in the week, maybe tomorrow even. Talk about the cash process, and this is my newfound venture in DFS is playing cash. We all have come up in this world of the advertising blast, of a 5 and 6 years ago. Was it 5 and 6? Was it 4 and 5? I don't know. A number of years ago with the advertising blast with FanDuel. FanDuel. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you who play on FanDuel and are screwed. I'm just laughing at the company themselves. Not a big fan of FanDuel. So we'll just leave it at that. But FanDuel and DraftKings were blasting all of us on ESPN, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And it was all marketed as a tournament site. It was, hey, throw down a little money, set your lineup, and rake in the cash. Become a millionaire on DraftKings, and we've all been any players who have come on to DFS since then. The non-old school daily fantasy players. We're all built to love tournaments and cash games. It's an old man's game. It's gin and rummy for DFS, but definitely been dipping my toe in cash a little bit more, and it's definitely a way to balance yourself out, in tournaments. If you don't do well in tournaments, but the best plays, you didn't do good on the leverage and the pivots, but you know who the good plays are, then maybe, just maybe, it's not a guarantee that you're going to double your money. It's not a guarantee that you win just because you play cash, but you might just get some of that return back. And if you nail it and you do well in tournaments, it's going to be a great week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my cash process early in my cash playing days sometime later this week. But that being said, back to the nature at hand. Lamar Jackson at the top struggled against Cincinnati, and I hope that means people are going to be off of him. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure all the the data guys, the analytics guys are going to look at this and say, oh, Lamar Jackson, it's a buy low opportunity, which it absolutely is. Philadelphia, not a great team. Lamar seems to be passing a little more. He just doesn't seem to be having, the run be definitely not his first option. And it's not even his second or third option. It's almost like his fourth option is to run. So that definitely takes away some of that floor or some of that ceiling that Lamar provides. But I do like him this week. I don't know where I'm going to land in cash if I'll go back there. But definitely some tournaments. He's definitely in play, as he is every single week he steps on the field. Aaron Rodgers in the mix up at the top as well, along with Deshaun Watson in the 7K range. Rodgers gets Tampa Bay They are a pass funnel. You see this little red first right here, and I don't ever pay attention to these things. I don't even know what this means. Opponent rank. I mean, what does this one number tell you about that opponent? This is one thing if you're new to daily fantasy. Just try not to pay much attention to this because it doesn't matter. Because what Tampa Bay does so well is stop the run, and it forces quarterbacks to pass on them and pass to the outside. And Rodgers has got a really great receiver. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but his name is Devontae Adams. So that could be a nice combo this week. I mean, Tampa Bay overall has a really good defense. Their defense is improving. Their secondary was horrible last year, but it is improving. So maybe I don't go to Rodgers this week because of the price, because Lamar's right there in what's seemingly to me a better matchup. And then we also have some quarterbacks that are cheaper. We have Deshaun Watson. No team total here. And we don't really talk about totals, but I noticed there's no totals out, probably because Tennessee just played last night. So we should see more game totals and team totals pop up throughout the week. But Deshaun Watson, I wouldn't say that just Bill O'Brien being gone is the reason why Deshaun Watson had a good game. It just might be a lighter mood around there, So that could have helped a little bit, but I think just the pressure. Did I say the right coach's name? What did I call it? Bill? It's Bill O'Brien. I feel like I said something else, but Deshaun Watson could be a good play, especially against Tennessee, they play good defense against Josh Allen last night, but they will be on a very short week, and so you never know what could come from that. Deshaun absolutely could be in play. Ben Roethlisberger with his new toy, his new gadget, Chase Claypool. Dude is a burner. He's tall. He is going to have the opportunity if Deontay Johnson continues to miss. I don't know the status on Deontay Johnson right now, but you got to think Claypool is, regardless of injury to their other wide receivers, that he's going to be in the mix. I mean, he's just proved himself, and now he's going to be out on the field more often than I think he would be. So, Roethlisberger with a new toy. They're playing Cleveland at home. And it sets up for really nicely for Roethlisberger. Matt Ryan, he's oh god. I mean, I don't know. I think he might be brushing a little dust off his shoulder, and that not in the good way, not in the Jay-Z kind of way, but in the more like he's getting dusty, and his time might be here. I don't know. Matt Ryan's not somebody I want to think about. We've seen people tear up this Minnesota secondary, but I think I'm going to be focusing on the Minnesota side of the ball. Spoiler alert, not really. I think all of us know that targeting Atlanta is going to be really popular this week. Going to be a lot of cash plays over on the Minnesota side. A lot of plays for single entry tournaments over on that side because Atlanta's defense is just bad. All right, you got Tom Brady, who I want to pull up the little player cards here. Had a really good week 2 weeks ago against the Chargers. Kind of struggled against Chicago. You can pick on Green Bay's defense at times. Just not sure. He's just kind of a meh play at this point. Cam Newton still on the COVID-19 list, as you can see there if you're watching on YouTube. Then he should be cleared to play by Sunday. We just have to see how the tests go and all that. So let's just move on down the line. Gardner Minshew in the mix against Detroit really could be an option this week in tournaments. Again, on the other side of the ball, Matthew Stafford in a really good spot against Jacksonville. Both these guys, I think I'm going to have a lot of tournament exposure to. We'll have to see where their ownership comes out. Towards the end of the week, grouped in this same group, Kirk Cousins. I mean, these three quarterbacks are all in a great spot, good pricing. Kirk Cousins against the terrible Atlanta defense, Stafford against the terrible Jacksonville defense, and then Minshew. Hey, Detroit's defense isn't much better. Forget this 2 right here. This is also going to be a high-scoring game. This chunk of quarterbacks right here, and you might as well just throw Teddy Bridgewater and Fitzpatrick in the mix. Bridgewater going up against Chicago, not the same as going up against Atlanta, so not quite as excited about Bridgewater, but, I mean, I mean, the Carolina offense is actually looking fairly decent. Joe Brady's got some things in that bag of tricks for these guys. So, I'm not going to rule out Bridgewater. He's just not the same play as he's going to be in Atlanta. So still like him. Yeah, Fitzpatrick at home going up against the Jets. I mean, why not? He's fighting to keep that job, and he did that last week as well, kind of just trouncing the 49ers early. Fitzpatrick still in the mix there. The Tua watches now went from being on to off, I do believe. Dusty Phillip Rivers, not really interested in that. I mean, they're going to be heavy favorites. They're going to have a high team total. I just don't ever play Phillip Rivers, even against Cincinnati. Maybe a Jonathan Taylor week. We'll have to see. We're getting down to quarterbacks that I probably don't want to play, but we'll see if there's any value. Tannehill looked good last night. That could be an option for sure. Nick Foles, the Carolina defense isn't phenomenal. We thought we were going to see Matt Ryan torch them a little bit more, so maybe Nick Foles comes into play at this $5,800 price tag. Wentz just not looking good. Going up against Baltimore, no thank you. Joe Burrow at Indy, maybe they want to prove something after being just embarrassed by the Ravens. Daniel Jones looked bad, but could be in a bounce-back spot against Washington. I don't know. Is he good or not? I mean, we saw what he did last year. He had 4 games last year with over 30 fantasy points, and that's just, as a rookie, that's phenomenal. We're definitely getting to an area where we don't want to play guys down here. Kyle Allen's questionable. I don't know if he plays. This could be, he's expected to be healthy enough to start against the Giants. I don't know. Do we dare go to Kyle Allen? I'm not sure. All right, let's stop looking at quarterback because it's just getting ugly. Let's go to running back, and we see Christian McCaffrey still on IR. Dalvin Cook he pulled up lame in the game the other night. It says he is not expected to play Sunday against the Falcons, so it's Alexander Madison season. Where is he? Right here. Man, they really got on that price hike. That waiting to release the salaries really helped DraftKings price guys where they should be priced, but I was hoping for a little bit more value in that Alexander Madison situation, but is a great play against Atlanta. Let's pop back up here to the top. Aaron Jones, like I mentioned, Tampa Bay has a very good run defense. Not sure I'm going to want to go here unless potentially we have Devontae Adams, who's questionable out. Maybe Aaron Jones comes into the mix and plays a pass catching role. I'm just gonna have to feel my way in there on Aaron Jones. Not sure how I feel about him just yet. Derrick Henry, short week, but certainly compound this Houston defense, who is not very good. We talked about Madison. James Conner against Cleveland. The Cleveland defensive line is really solid, and we expected a lot from James Conner last week and didn't really see it. He gave us 15 DraftKings points, 15 attempts, 44 yards, an average of only 2.9 per carry. That's not great. And, who did they play? It was just a few days ago. Philly. And Philly's got, an okay line as well. It's about the one good thing left on their team. But let's get down to some of the guys we're excited about. Mike Davis finally at $7K, but still absolutely playable. Revenge game against his former team, Chicago, who did not hang on to him. Look, I'm not really in the narrative game too much, but it's kind of interesting. And Mike Davis is just a good play. He's in the Christian McCaffrey role. He's carrying the ball. In the last 2 games, 16 times. Decent yardage. But it's not really the ground game that's getting him there. I mean, it's definitely the ground game with some touchdowns, but look at these targets, man. 10 targets against Atlanta, 6, 9, 8. Not the first week because McCaffrey was still playing, but 60 yards, 27, 45, 74 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. I mean, this guy is he's I don't want to say the Swiss Army knife thing, but he's got multiple tools that he can pull out of his bag. So Mike Davis still in play for that price tag. It's getting, borderline. Once it goes higher than this, I think it might be too expensive, but we'll have to see what he does this week against Chicago. A defense that's, they kind of have this mystique of being like this big, bad defense. They're really not. They're sort of middle of the road this year, but still solid. So we'll have to see what Mike Davis does to see if he warrants, playing him at a higher price tag if he goes up after this week. Kareem Hunt, not in a good spot, a good opportunity. Nick Chubb still on the sideline. Kareem Hunt is the guy going up against Pittsburgh. I don't know. It could be a very good tournament play, I think. I think the Pittsburgh defense will scare people away, but Kareem Hunt will get the majority of the touches, and they'll work him in the passing game too. So, it could be a good tournament play. Definitely not for cash. Jerome Robinson. Why do I keep calling this guy Jerome? His name is not Jerome. His name is James Robinson. James Robinson, I think, is in a really great spot here. Dude's just getting a majority of the workload. He's getting targets, 7 targets against Houston. That's pretty solid. And at this price tag, $6,800, against a really bad Detroit run defense, I like James Robinson. Might be a play for cash games. Miles Sanders looked really bad in the last week's game outside of one play, a big 70-yard rushing touchdown. But I think everything outside of that, I think he averaged negative -1 yard per carry. Against Baltimore, another tough defense. I don't think as tough as Pittsburgh, so maybe people see Baltimore and they don't want to play him. He could be a good tournament play. Jonathan Taylor, this is a bounce-back spot for him, I do believe. Going up against Cincinnati, doesn't have a great defense. They're kind of like the Bears. Like, people look at them, and they see Cincinnati and they think it's just the opposite side of the Bears. They're like, oh, they're terrible, but they actually play pretty good defense. They're more middle of the pack than you would think. So Jonathan Taylor might be in a good spot, but he hasn't really, he just hasn't been what we thought he was going to be after that week 2 breakout, and only gave us 22 DraftKings points, barely got over 100 yards. Only, let's see, his receptions, his targets really aren't there. I mean, yeah, he gets a few a game, maybe one, but he's still borderline for me. Not somebody I'm getting excited about really early. Speaking of early, Gurley, man, this is not something I saw coming. I played I think 0 Gurley last week. Had his best game of the season so far against Carolina. But Carolina's a bad rushing defense. Minnesota's not great, so he could be in play here. But if he's going to get these type of targets, if these targets are going to Gurley instead of Hayden Hurst, which we saw, I definitely know that. I played Hayden Hurst in cash. Big mistake. But yeah, this is good volume. 14 attempts. He averaged 8.6 yards a carry. I don't think he's going to do that against Minnesota, though. This could be a trap game, actually. I'm sitting here talking out of both sides of my mouth. I do realize that. I understand. But I see some good things in this situation for him, but I also see some downsides. So don't get too hyped on Gurley right now. But he could be a good play. Let's see how things shape up the rest of the week. Let's fly through the rest of these running backs. We don't need to talk about all of them. Ronald Jones, I think, is in a really good spot. Green Bay does not have a good run defense, and this is, the green number tells the truth for once. So Ronald Jones could be in a good spot. I do want to see what's going to happen with Lenny. They'll probably sign Le'Veon Bell as well. And it'll be just even more of a mess in that backfield. So Jones could be in play. Melvin Gordon, no thank you. David Montgomery is going to probably be one of the highest owned tournament plays, if I'm guessing. Against Carolina, bad rushing defense. We saw what Gurley did to him. We were just talking about it. He tore them up. Montgomery's only 5,800, assuming they don't sign Lev Bell. He's pretty much got that backfield, on lock with, a few other pieces back there like flapping in the breeze. But yeah, Montgomery could be a really good play this week, but he might be uber chalk, so keep an eye on that. Antonio Gibson had a decent day. He had 10 fantasy points, 11 attempts for 27 yards, 2.5 yards a carry, not great. Targets, last 2 weeks, 5 targets, 24 yards, 82 yards. All he needs is to get a touchdown on one of these targets or even a rushing touchdown, and you're going to see, like numbers like this. You can't see that on the video. That's a shame. I should pay more attention to that. Numbers like this. You can't even see it that way. All right. I'm just going to have to move over a little bit here. Numbers like this, if you're watching on YouTube, 22.8, that's what he got in week 4 as far as DraftKings points. It's because he got that touchdown, and he got a lot of yards, and that was against Baltimore. Kind of keep this in mind when you're thinking about playing Miles Sanders, because he could be a good play against a team that people are kind of afraid of defensively. But back to Antonio Gibson, he's in a good spot going up against the New York Giants. What can I say? He's cheap, and last week he was a tournament darling. Will he remain that? We'll have to see. Myles Gaskin had a really great matchup. He's got the Jets this week. Will Jordan Howard be a healthy scratch? He was last week. Gaskin was able to go out and be a part of this this team that, man, I can't believe that I was pulling up these player cards and you couldn't even see anything I was referring to. I'm just talking to the people on YouTube here at this point. Sorry, podcast people. Myles Gaskin, the Dolphins went out and just dominated the 49ers, 43-17. Dude got 16 attempts for 57 yards, 3.6 yards a carry, not terrible. Had a long run of 21. Look at it. You just look at the stat line across the board. He had a rushing touchdown, 5 receptions on 5 targets, 34 yards. Dude's just out there. He's getting work. And he's 5,400. He's going up against the Jets. Could be in a really solid spot. Man, David Johnson, people are really hating on David Johnson. But I think if you look, I think he's a buy low. Let's check out his schedule. They don't have his schedule on here. So we're not going to check out his schedule because this is I like player cards, and I like it when you can see the upcoming schedule, not just the schedule. Okay, anyway, people are hating on David Johnson, and he does have a really easy schedule coming up. I can't remember who he's playing, but I've noticed the schedule in the past, and I know it's good forthcoming. So yeah, it could be a buy low situation for David Johnson, and season long if you can trade for him, or buy low when it comes to playing him in DFS. He's only 5,400. So there's that. And we'll see what happens with David Johnson. Is he dusty, or is he? Hold on. Let's go back really quick. He did get, which you can see this on YouTube, making sure of that. He did get 17 attempts, so he's getting the bulk of the workload. He almost got 100 yards on those 17 attempts. He averaged 5.6 yards a carry. That's actually good. He broke off a 29-yard run for a long, as far as his longest run. He needs more receptions. I understand. He did get 4 targets, pulled in 2 of them, only 7 yards. You need more here from the receiving. But from a rushing standpoint, he's actually doing pretty decent. 5.6 yards per carry in week 5, 3.9 yards per carry in week 4, and then all the way back to week 1, 7 yards a carry. So he's able to do things with his touches. Yeah, they just need to get him the ball in space more. I don't know why they don't do that. The Texans need a new coaching regime. Not even the Romeo Crennel coaching regime, I don't think can. Are they going to be smart enough to get David Johnson the ball? We've spent way too much talking about David Johnson. Lev Bell, he was dropped. He was cut by the Jets. Finally, he's got his freedom. We'll see where he winds up. Like I said, it'll probably be in Tampa Bay. Mark Ingram, just not a guy who's worth really playing very much. He's not a guy who's exciting anyone. You look at these fantasy points, 2 weeks in the double digits, A couple weeks, 3 weeks in the double digits. A couple weeks, he's got, okay, I think I said that wrong. 3 weeks in the single digits, 2 weeks in the double digits, is barely out of the single digits here with 10 points. He's just not on the radar. Leonard Fournette is questionable. I am interested in this information just for Ronald Jones purposes. Why can't I get this to go up? Okay, you can't read it if you're watching on YouTube, but that's okay. Fournette was present for Tuesday's practice, donning no brace or protective tape. Oh, great. That means it's going to be a murky mess there. So I'm not playing Fournette. That was really just for Ronald Jones to decide if we want to play him. Damian Harris coming back for New England. Not sure what's going to happen there. Don't really want to mess with that until we see more. Devontae Freeman looked really good in his role against the Giants. Mentioned him on the Sunday show as a potential good play in a stack if you wanted to get a little contrarian. You still should have played Slayton, but playing Devontae Freeman instead of Evan Ingram would have been nice in that bring-back stack. I hope he didn't stack with Daniel Jones because that would have been just a mess. James White, Adrian Peterson, Rex Burkhead, DeAndre Swift could play an interesting role here, I think, in this game. This is a game environment I like. Two teams that aren't great going up against each other. This could be very similar to the Texans-Jacksonville game that we just saw last week. It's just going to be a game of garbage time. And that the Texans game started out a little slower than I wanted to. It didn't really jump off till like later in the second half. So if this game gets going early and kind of sticks to that mold of the second half of the Texans Jacksonville game, this game could be full of fantasy goodness, and it could be a time to finally pull Swift out of the bag. I mean, look at these fantasy points. Dude's splitting work 3 ways with Kerryon Johnson and Adrian Peterson, and out of the 4 weeks that he's played, has gotten into double-digit fantasy totals. These aren't like stellar numbers, but considering what he has gotten, look at his rushing attempts: 4, 5, 3, 0 this week. We'll just take this week out of the whole heap, but it's the receiving game, and he's not really doing that much. I mean, 4, 5 targets. These aren't. It's not like they're getting 6, 7, 8 targets like a Mike Davis. But it's just what he's doing with these targets. I mean, 60 yards on 5 targets, 30 yards on 5 targets. He dropped a receiving touchdown. I think it was week 1 or week 2, and then in the last week finally caught one. So I don't think he's going to see a ton of ground game, but I think he's definitely going to be more involved over here. And I think he's a good potential tournament play this week for cheap. We are kind of getting down to an area where, we don't really need to talk about these running backs anymore beyond Swift. Let's move to wide receiver, where we have Devontae Adams up top with a Q tag. Not sure if he's going to play yet. He's probably likely to play. I don't know about this matchup. It's not the best matchup. He is expensive. He's a good player on a good team, and probably over. If you have him in season long, you're definitely starting him. I just don't know where I'm going to land on him for DFS. We'll have to see how that plays out. Calvin Ridley, I don't know if Julio's going to play or not, but in a really stellar matchup, both these guys right here. I mean, just going back and forth at each other. This, is possibly going to be the Carolina-Atlanta game with a little more potency on. The other side, I don't even know what I'm saying there. Actually, this is Carolina, Minnesota's Carolina, and then Atlanta's Atlanta, and Atlanta has a bad defense, so Minnesota is probably going to do a number on them. And Minnesota doesn't, look at these. Look, I say not to look at these, but they're bad. You don't even need to look at that. Just know that both teams have bad secondaries. And speaking of a garbage time game all the way through, this could be one of them. So I like Ridley here. I like Thielen. Allen Robinson against Carolina could be in a really good spot. I like Mike Evans with Godwin still out. I'm trying to, go through this a little quicker because we waste a little bit of time at quarterback and running back. Julio's questionable. We'll have to see what happens there. Oh, I skipped Will Fuller. Man, I love Will Fuller this year. I drafted him in a lot of season long. I came on to him late, actually. He wasn't really on my radar during a lot of the preseason, but just weeks before most drafts took place, I really came on to him more. And, outside of week 2 where he kind of, it was a weird game. He kind of got an injury, in the mix a little bit, but he was still out there. But look, outside of week 2, 22 DraftKings points, 15 DraftKings points, 25, 15. I mean, dude's getting double-digit DK points, and he's going to go off for, he's barely eclipsed, 100 yards twice, 108, 112. Now, these are good things, but he's going to kind of go off for 150 or more at one point, and he's going to get a 2-touchdown game at some point. This could potentially be that game. We'll have to see how that plays out, but I like Will Fuller this week, and a week that people might kind of come down on him. People were definitely on him a little bit in tournaments last week, and I think that might scale back a little bit. We'll just have to see. Juju Smith-Schuster looks to be in a decent spot, but with Chase Claypool coming in the mix and Deontay Johnson, I don't know what you're going to get there. It's kind of a mystery. When you look at week 5, he did not have a great game. Only 4 receptions on 5 targets. It's not going to get it done when you got Mapletron, that's what I hear Chase Claypool's name is, because he looks like Megatron, but he's from Canada, so Mapletron it is. Marquise Brown could be a good spot for him. He's been very boomer bust this year. And yes, I consider 9 points in week 2 against Houston a bust. I finally had a pretty decent week with 19 points last week against Cincinnati. Waiting for him to break out even further, and he could have an opportunity to do that this week going up against Philly. Odell Beckham, Pittsburgh defense, I'm not sure. It's just kind of a wait and see kind of play. Devontae Parker, do him and Fitz get back on their magic carpet ride? I don't know. Fitz magic. That's why I made that joke. Do they get back on? Fitz hooked up with Preston Williams this week. Devontae Parker might be a little jealous and may want his action with Fitz this week against the Jets. Good place for it, so don't mind Parker. I like Fitz and Parker stacks. Wow, how do we go this long talking about receivers, and we're just now getting to Robbie Anderson? We did skip Chark here. He's questionable. He didn't make a lot of noise in the last game. Have to see what's going on with that. But Robbie Anderson, down here at 6'3", he's a top 10 receiver in the league right now. I mean, you look at his numbers, he's just producing. Teddy Bridgewater loves him. 22, 17, 10, 21, 28 fantasy points in the first 5 weeks. He is a play, especially at this price. He's a lock. He's great. Kenny Golladay, 6,200. This is a guy who was the number 1 receiver last year in fantasy, and I know he's missed a couple weeks. At the beginning of the season, they didn't play last week, so a lot of people are going to be low on him, I think. A lot of people may not be there, but actually they probably will. 17 and 16 fantasy points this week, this year so far, a touchdown in each of his games. I mean, Golladay seems like a pretty good play when it comes to he's low priced at this point. I don't know. He may wind up being very chalky, but we'll have to see. I like him this week. Crowder against Miami. I like that. He is he's doing work. Definitely. I mean, look at this. In the weeks that he has played, every week that he's played, he's gotten over 20 fantasy points. This is nuts. Did you expect to see this? And I know on YouTube you can't see all of it, but there you go. 27, 20, and 28 fantasy points in every week that he's played. I mean, dude's a baller. People look at him and think he's like this safe play, and he does have he will have some down weeks, but apparently he's just this is a down week for me. I'm just going to take off and not play. I'll be back next week, and I'll put up 25 DK points. Justin Jefferson is in an amazing spot. You got Adam Thielen, priced way up here at 7,300. And he's certainly a good play this week. I love this game environment, but you come down here to Justin Jefferson at a flat 6K. He's in an amazing spot as well. So we'll have a lot of Justin Jefferson. I assume he will be. There's a very good chance he could be a cash darling this week. DJ Moore, speaking of cash darling, people were on him early for cash games as a safe play, then realized Robbie Anderson was the alpha there. But DJ Moore did finally get a touchdown, did finally put up some decent fantasy numbers, aside from that second week when he had 23. But he had 19. I'm happy with that. I'll live with it. This week in Chicago, we'll have to see. I don't know. He's not jumping out at me right now. Tyler Boyd, really good amount of targets. Check this out, and I'm only saying that off a whim, but 6'8", 13, 8'5" so far. Him and Burrow are developing a relationship. The Indy defense is decent, though, so we'll have to see kind of where he falls in the mix. Terry McLaurin is in a phenomenal spot here. Finally, he does not have a big-time cornerback who will be shadowing him going up against the Jets, depending on whose quarterback is, but I see a pretty solid game in Terry McLaurin's future. A.J. Brown came back with a vengeance last night, just looked great, didn't look hobbled at all. Like him against Houston. Edelman, we don't talk about COVID teams. I don't know, I assume this game is going to happen. We'll have to see what happens on the New England side. But they've just sort of been out of sight, out of mind for a while. So we'll address them as we get closer to the actual week. Jerry Jeudy, not really doing much for me. Slayton coming up in price, going up against Washington. I don't hate that, but will people be on it? Will they not? I don't really know what's going to happen there. Laviska Shenault proving himself to be a beast, and I don't know if he's overtaken DJ Chark yet, but I know his numbers. I'm pretty sure his numbers are better thus far. He has he's got no touchdowns on the year, no rushing touchdowns because he does get carries occasionally, no receiving. Wait a minute, am I looking at this correctly? Yeah, here's rushing touchdowns, here's receiving touchdowns, and yet he still has 14, 8, and 10 fantasy points. The dude's just getting a decent amount of targets. Pretty solid amount of targets. He's getting yards, so he's getting catches, he's getting those PPR points, and he's getting a little bit of rushing equity. Not a lot that makes a huge difference. He got 37 yards in week 2, but yeah, Laviska is he's going to be utilized, and he was the play in the bring back this week or last week in the Jag stack. If you did Deshaun Watson, Brandon Cooks, Fuller, and bring it back with Laviska, that was a decent move there. Here's Chase Claypool from 3K or whatever he was up to 5,200. Is he playable at this point? Or is he going to go back to being this guy from week 3 who got 1 reception on 4 targets? I don't think so. I think they're going to have to put him in their game plan, and I think he's going to have to be a part of things. People are going to be on him, probably just the game log watchers that still exist out there. They could definitely be on him. Let's see who we got in here. Marvin Jones, Alan Lazard still on IR, T.Y. Hilton not exciting me. Brandon Cooks, it was hey, everybody's on Brandon Cooks, but he fails. And then everybody's off of Brandon Cooks, but then he bounces back with 33 fantasy points. Where people are going to go, I haven't really, done enough mental warfare with the rest of the field playing DFS to decide if they're going to jump off here or if everybody's going to be on. I'm really not sure, but man, Brandon Cooks, he's been a wild one this past couple weeks. Keelan Cole, yeah, maybe. Just trying to find guys who really are jumping out at me instead of trying to say something about every single person out here. What did Zach Pascal do? I was really interested in playing. Yeah, not much. So let's just get away from that. No need to talk about him. T. Higgins, sort of like the new man there in Cincinnati. He got 10 fantasy points last week. Not sure if I'm excited about him or not. Let's just move on to tight end because we need to wrap this up. We're at 39 minutes. Tight end shouldn't take too long. All right. Plus, this is just a first look. So we're just skimming. We're just seeing what pops out at us. Mark Andrews at the top, 6,500. We're back to, just not a whole lot of tight end strength on this schedule. No Kittle, no Kelsey on this slate. Mark Andrews is there in a decent spot against Philly. He had 17 DK points in week 5. He had 20 DK points in week 4. He's really proven himself after that bad Kansas City game with all those drops. So, I mean, if you look at 3 out of his 5 weeks, he was at 20 points or more or almost at 20 points. 17 points or more out of 5 weeks. The others were just duds. So, I guess you would call him a boom or bust guy. Who else do we have in the mix here? Gesicki, man, speaking of another boomer bust guy, he got 30 points in week 2, as you can see right here. He broke one, I think, let's see, where does it say long? Yeah, he had a 70-yard run that he broke away from. Outside of that, in the last game against San Francisco, 91 yards, so only 21 yards on 6 targets, 5 receptions after that. But he had one big one that kind of spiked his total fantasy points. I don't know. I just don't know if this guy is somebody who Fitzpatrick is looking at or not. Fant, I'm not looking at that game really at this point. Hawkinson, in a decent spot, good game environment. Jonnu Smith, he's in play as well, I guess. We'll have to see what happens with those COVID guys. He was needed in the passing game, and this last night, will Corey Davis and Humphreys be off the COVID list? I don't know. If not, Jonnu could be a really good play. A little bit pricey at 5,200. Robert Tonyan, the big boy. Is he from Montana? I want to say he's. I don't know. Is that wrong? He just seems like a Montanian. But look at we all know what he did last week or 2 weeks ago against Atlanta. And hey, it's Atlanta, but 16 fantasy points a week before that, 10 before that. The dude's coming on. He could be one. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have that many target. It's like favorite targets at least. And maybe Tonyan is going to be one of them. Zach Ertz really. Kind of fell by the wayside last week, and I don't know where to go with Zach Ertz. Is he starting to get a little dust on the bottle? I don't know. He might be getting dusty. I'm not sure. He might be old. Jimmy Graham. I'm just down here with a lot of guys I'm not excited about. Do I go back to the well with Hayden Hurst? I played him in cash. He let me down. But against Minnesota could be a decent spot. I don't want to talk about tight ends much longer. So we're going to wrap it up right there. Definitely not going to talk about defenses. But that is your first look for the week. I hope it was helpful. Hope it was enjoyable. And I hope this YouTube thing turned out well. Definitely go follow us on the YouTubes over at YouTube. Search the Daily Fantasy Swag. Give us a subscribe. Get in on the ground floor over there. And we will see you again soon over there on the podcast. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe. Thank you all for doing that. Thanks for listening and downloading and all that good stuff over on the podcast side of things. And that's going to do it for today. So thanks for listening. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. May all your GPP dreams come true.